name is Kate and this is my channel Chapter Kate. Today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated releases for 2019, despite the fact that it's already mid-February and 2 of these books have already come out. But that's not important. What is important is that I am shivering with anticipation. As I was compiling this list, I realized that the majority of the books on this list are young adult books. Now, I thought that this was interesting because when I looked back at my reading from 2018, about half of it was adult and half of it was YA, with a little bit of middle grade sprinkled in there. I tried to think about why this might be, and I think it's because the majority of booktubers read YA books, so I hear about YA books a lot more, and the majority of the adult books I read, I either got because I found it and wanted it, and I just saw it and I liked it, or it's somebody that's already dead. Not to be morbid, but a lot of them are dead. I just read Frankenstein the other day. Mary Shelley's dead. So they're not exactly releasing new books. And of course, a lot of the adult authors that are still alive that I read, like, regularly, either also release a lot of YA and middle grade books or release very slowly. These are not really in any order. I'm just going to jump into it. I'm going to try to do these in the order that they are being released this year, but no promises that it's going to be perfect because some of these don't have a set date. Some of these, their dates are, not really for sure. So, yeah. The first book is The Wicked King. This book has already been released. It was released in January. That said, I don't have a copy yet, but I am working on it. The Wicked King is the sequel to The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. These books take place in Fairy, which is where all the fairies live. Magical place. And these are no Tinkerbell type fairies. When I say fairies in this aspect, or fae, I mean the fae that will eat your brains, wear your skin, I don't know. The kind of fae that are, legitimately in like fae stories from the old days where they make you do bad stuff. And as you can guess from the title of this book, some bad stuff's probably gonna happen. Some bad stuff happened in The Cruel Prince. There's a lot of bloodshed. There was political intrigue. There was some mind games. Since I don't want to give away the plot of the first book because that would be a spoiler for those that have not read it, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an idea of what happened in this story. The main character of The Cruel Prince is named Jude. When she was young, some dude busted up into her house and told her older sister that she was his daughter, and then he stole her, killed the parents, and took her and her twins little sisters to Fairy, and they all lived painfully ever after. I loved it. I love reading about fae. I love reading about fairy land, whatever. I love that junk. I love it. I feel like it's going to be a trilogy. I'm talking a lot with my hands. Okay, let's just go to the next book, On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas wrote The Hate U Give, which hit real big, I think it was last year. Was it last year? I don't know. It was made into a movie last year. Angie Thomas touches on a lot of racial issues in her books and a lot of really socially conscientious topics, which I think are extremely important for everyone to read. This is a young adult book, and not only is it important for Black teenagers to see themselves portrayed in books, see their lives, played out on page, see the issues that they deal with on the daily basis written out like this, but it is also important for everyone else to read about these issues and understand them at least a little bit more. Of course, those of us that are not Black are not going to ever understand to the full extent what Black people go through on the day-to-day basis, the experiences that they have, the injustices that they face. But reading about it at least can give us some measure of empathy about those situations and give us an opportunity to educate ourselves. But important topics aside, it is also a story about someone striving for success despite the odds being stacked against them. The main character in this book is named Bree, and she is trying to be a rap legend. Her father was a rap legend who died before his time, and her mother has just lost her job and she is facing eviction. The thing that really drew me to this book is something that I'm kind of scared to admit. And this is that when I was little, I really wanted to be a rapper. It's out there now. It's out there. I really wanted to be a rapper when I was little. I thought it was so awesome. The people that I went to church with would freestyle often, and some of the people that I was friends with later also did the same thing, and I always loved the fact that people could freestyle and come up with things off the cuff, and I just thought it was cool. And when I would write poems, I would read them in a more rap style. I grew up in a church that was very diverse, and we listened to a lot of Christian rap. And I would always try to learn like the more complicated like raps and stuff and try to like do that. But of course it's not the same as writing your own. And then when we had talent shows at church, I would also try and write my own raps and stuff. So to read about somebody who is actually going for that goal is going to be an extremely interesting experience for me. Especially considering I'm extremely different than the main character. I grew up in a different background. I have a different family situation. And of course, I obviously didn't end up going for the rap career. I am now in a music career, but not rap. Not to say I don't still like rap. Yeah. So, I forgot that this one came out the same day as On the Come Up, February 5th. And it is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. I am a cover buyer. I'm sorry, I just am. But I wasn't going to just jump in and buy it until someone started talking about it and said that it was very much like trippy and stuff, and I love trippy books. I love things that are weird and based in different mythologies, and this one is definitely fitting those categories. It's based in African mythology and history and all this cool stuff, and I have a rule, like a personal rule, that I buy anything that is blurbed by Neil Gaiman. So why is this happening? But on the back, the blurb by Neil Gaiman describes it as hallucinatory, which is, yes, please. And he also compared it to Tolkien. So hopefully I'll enjoy this more than Tolkien, but yes. And then reading the synopsis of it, the main character's name is Tracker, and he's hired to find a missing boy, and apparently that's his thing. He tracks people, and he is able to find people and all this cool stuff. And at some point he meets up with like a group or something like that of other people that are searching for this boy, and he breaks his sort of personal vow of working alone and things like that. So he's a lone kind of dude. But there's a lot of mystery surrounding this kid, so he's trying to learn more about him, and there are these creatures that are after him and all this cool stuff. So I am totally here for it. And it is just taunting me until I finish all of my current reads so I can just freaking get to this already. But yes, this is the beginning of a trilogy, and I am psyched. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. The next book is actually a re-release. This video is not getting off to a good start. So far, I've talked about 2 books that have already come out, and now I'm talking about a 3rd book that has already come out a long time ago, so. But the next book is The Near Witch by Victoria Schwab. I was going to say V.E. Schwab, but then I realized it's a young adult book, and she releases young adult books under the name Victoria Schwab. The main character of this book is named Lexi, and she lives in the town of Near. There are rumors floating around the town of a witch that can take children away, and it's like a bedtime story people tell their kids so they, like, behave or go to sleep or something. I don't know. And then this mysterious boy pops up that she just feels comfortable talking to and feels comfortable with, and everybody starts to think it might be the boy that's taking the kids, and she doesn't think so, so she feels like she can trust him, and he's going to help her find all the children, and yeah. It's been out for a while. It was actually, I believe, Victoria Schwab's debut novel, but I haven't read it, and it was out of print, so it's being re-released, and it will be re-released on March 12th, I believe. Yes. The next book is Peace and Turmoil, and it is being released by Booktube's own Elliot Brooks. I found Elliot's channel a while back because she was talking about Witcher books, and I was just starting the Witcher books. And if you've seen any of my videos, I still am at the beginning of that series. But I do really enjoy it. I'll eventually get through them. Eventually. Peace and Turmoil is the first book in an epic fantasy series. This book has a lot of characters and a lot of different point of views, and the main 4 characters are from 4 different countries. Those countries are Mysidia, Zenith, Sedai, and Eve. Of those 4 characters, 3 of them are heirs to the throne. This book takes place during a time of civil unrest, so there's going to be a lot of political turmoil and interpersonal turmoil, and I'm actually really excited to read it. I've talked about this often, that I get very intimidated by long fantasy series, so I feel like this one, because I'm catching it at the beginning, I'm not going to be quite as daunted by it. At least that's my hope. The thing that I think I'm actually the most excited about when it comes to this book is the fact that Elliot wants this book to be a very special experience. She's going to have character art and monster art throughout the books, as well as letters between characters and even like tavern songs between characters. And I think that's going to be a really cool element to really make reading this book an awesome experience. And since I am on Elliot's street team for this book, I also received a fancy candle. This is from the Cauldron Candle Company, and it is the Abaddon candle. The scent of this candle is elixirs, vetiver, and sandalwood. I hope I said that right too. I'm bad at words today. And it smells so good. It kind of smells like, okay, so when I think about the scent of this, it sort of smells like cologne mixed with like babies. Is that weird? Like, imagine like a little baby in a business suit walking around, smells like cologne and babies, and this would be what he smells like. Yes. This book is being released on March 18th, and I am so excited to see all the awesome work that Ellie has put into this. The next book is Through the Whitewood by Jessica Leek. Through the Whitewood is actually the sequel to Beyond a Darkened Shore by Jessica Leek. Jessica Leek is pretty awesome. I've met her at a book festival that was local. She lives in the same city as me, which is pretty cool. We're gonna be best friends one day. I'm determined. And also, she used to be a clinical psychologist, so that's pretty rad, yeah. Beyond a Darkened Shore magically bridged Norse mythology and Celtic mythology together in this one awesome book. So I'm actually really excited to read Through the Whitewood, which I believe is based on Russian mythology. Honestly, this book sounds like every Frozen and Fire Hans fanfiction, fairy tale, wet dream that I have ever seen. Not that I've read any of them. The main character of this book is named Katya. She has ice powers similar to Elsa in Frozen. So there's this big incident and she hurts several villagers, so she gets banished to this prince named Prince Sasha in Kiev. And it turns out Prince Sasha has fire powers. It's a match made in Robert Frost heaven. Get it? Because fire and ice. Anyway. Sasha offers Katya an opportunity to use her power instead of trying to hold it in all the time, to fully embrace her power. There's also an army of people who can control Earth, and it's very elementally. But I absolutely love any book where people have power over different elements. Sasha and Katya have to join together to try to fight this force and protect their kingdom, and I cannot wait. The expected publication date for this is April 9th. The next book is a middle grade book called The Spinner of Dreams by K.A. Reynolds. This book caught my eye when it popped up on my timeline and said that it was a fantasy with PTSD representation. I've mentioned before on my channel that I have post-traumatic stress disorder myself and that I really, really want to see more of it done in books, and I want to see it done well. The main character of this book's name is Annalise Merriweather. Annalise is extremely lonely because as a young girl she was cursed and pretty much has to carry around a monster with her. Now I am suspecting that this monster is going to be sort of a personification of anxiety or trauma or something like that, and I honestly cannot wait to see a story like this told. I know what kind of impact a story like this would have had on me as a child before I even developed post-traumatic stress disorder, or before I even knew what it was. Rather. And I sincerely hope that this book serves as a reminder to those that are suffering with anxiety and trauma at a young age and at an older age, at whatever age, that they're not alone, and that even if it is stuck to you, there's ways to live and there's ways to overcome. You may not ever get rid of that monster, but you can live with that monster, and you can show that monster that you are stronger than it is. I cannot wait to see the magic that is this book. And that book is coming out August 27th. The next book is Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. This is the second book in the Cassidy Blake series. Yes. The first book was City of Bones, which came out in 2018, last year. The main character of this book, Cassidy Blake, has a ghost friend named Jacob that basically saved her from passing over to the other side. A strange side effect of this encounter was that Cassidy can now see ghosts, communicate with ghosts, and enter through the veil, which is basically the other side, but not the other side, dead other side, but other side where the ghosts are. Is that different? Anyway, when I read City of Bones, I got serious Coraline vibes, and I absolutely love Neil Gaiman, and I absolutely love Victoria Schwab. So any chance I can to get that sort of creepy, but also creepy in a way that doesn't horrify you sort of vibe, I'm gonna go for it. And I absolutely cannot wait to see where Cassidy Blake goes on this new journey. Her parents are actually ghost hunters, and they have a new television show. I think her mom is the more fantastical thinker in the show, where her dad is more scientific in this ghost hunting show. So they go to different haunted places, which, as you can imagine, is gonna be something a little bit difficult for Cassidy, who can see ghosts. And that book is going to be released on September 3rd. The next book is a book that I absolutely did not know was happening, but I'm so excited. And that is The Seven Sisters by Neil Gaiman. I'm currently rereading Neverwhere as a buddy read with Maris from Under the Cover. I'm reading the illustrated version right now, and I just read his introduction, and he talked about he doesn't write sequels, but that if he did write a sequel to Neverwhere, then it would be like this. So the fact that he is writing a sequel to Neverwhere is pretty awesome. Neverwhere is awesome. It's so good. And he even said in the introduction that it's supposed to be basically like an Alice in Wonderland for adults, which it totally does that for me. There is not a synopsis yet available on Goodreads for this book, so I don't know what it's going to be about. I don't know if it's going to be a continuation of Neverwhere or if it's going to be just kind of in that same world. I don't know, but I'm so excited about it. It's going to be released on September 15th. If you haven't read Neverwhere, it's about a guy named Richard who runs into this girl named Dora who's running from this trouble, and he gets like thrown into this entire underground like London that he doesn't even know about with a lot of weird junk going on. I am psyched about it. I love the like normal person discovers all this weird stuff trope, and I love when main characters are not special. And the next book that I'm going to talk about does not have a release date, so who knows? Maybe it won't be released in 2019, but who knows? I don't know, and I really need to know. And this is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. The Toll is the third book in the Arc of a Scythe series. The first book is Scythe, the second book is Thunderhead, and the third book is The Toll. I can't really talk about what this is about because it's the third, and it's... The second book left me on such a cliffhanger that I literally wanted to punch something because and now he's not even going to give us a date. Like, come on, Neil. Come on, Neil. Come on, Neil. But if you haven't read the Scythe series or you haven't heard anyone talk about it, it's basically a utopia where no one dies of natural causes anymore. And if you do die, you can be brought back. The only way you can die permanently is if you are gleaned by a scythe. Scythes are made to control the population because, you know, since everything else has been solved, population control is the only real problem. And that's pretty much all I feel like I can say without giving away a ton of stuff if you haven't read it already. But I will say this book is full of really awesome like political intrigue, but also like this science fiction aspect and all this cool stuff. And I cannot wait for the third one. I wish he would just give us a date already. Not that I'm better. Tell me some of your most anticipated releases of 2019 in the comments. And if they've already come out, let me know about that. Or if you're interested in any of the same ones that I am, let me know so we can freak out together. In tandem. And this brings me to the end of the video, which of course means it is time for a Booktuber Spotlight. Today's Booktuber Spotlight goes to Maris from Under the Cover, who I have already mentioned once in this video. Maris has extremely unique and interesting content. She will describe it as weird, and sure, maybe it's weird, and I like it. I like weird. I feel like the majority of Maris's content is very skit-ish. Not skittish, but like skit-like. There's a lot of skits there. It's very cinematic and very awesome, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Also, Maris knows how to take pictures. I know that sounds random, but if you've seen Maris's Instagram, Maris is also just a delightful person to get to know and to talk to. She's very genuine and very just open. We did a live show together on Kevin from Storyglyph's channel. We did the mental health campfire live show thing, and I thought it was amazing how honest Maris was about her experiences and the fact that she took a step to kind of advocate for mental health in that way by being part of that live show. I thought that was pretty cool. But that's all for this video. If you would like more of this junk, subscribe below. Bye! Tripping over shadows and I'm drowning in the night. I feel the soldiers coming, I'm putting up a fight.